This spring, Canadians finally got a fight about their data they could see. They call it surveillance pricing. The idea that a company can look at your browsing history, your postal code, take a guess at your income, and quietly charge you more than the person standing right next to you. And people were furious, rightly. But here's what almost nobody noticed. While we were all arguing about whether the grocery store was ripping us off, 4 other bills were moving through Ottawa. And those bills don't just decide whether a corporation can use your data against you, they decide who else gets to see it. Not through some secret back door, through the front door. Written into law, one reasonable sounding bill at a time. So today we're going to do the thing that nobody wants in Ottawa. We're going to read them together and find out what they actually mean to Canadians. All right, here we go. Liam DeBoer with a look at privacy from, through a different lens, actually, potentially from each other. Today we're talking about how new laws that have hit the books here in Canada are going to make a difference to our privacy and potentially our freedoms. And let's get into it, because even before the show, you and I are having a pretty, no, I wouldn't say heated, but we do have some opposing views of this. I mean, I think I take the maybe standard, less polished view of this by thinking, okay, we've passed a bunch of privacy laws lately that I think are there to protect us. You know, there's a law on the books now that is, I think, targeted at predators and people that could be taking advantage of us. There are privacy laws in place now that are meant to, keep our own data private and the sharing of that. What are your thoughts? You think that maybe there's something more nefarious, or am I just thinking, oh yeah, everything's fine? I want to be protected by laws.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's really nefarious, so to say, or whether it's just movement towards I view these more as large scale trends. So not that every individual decision is sought out, but that we do see this more and more pull towards just centralized data and also surveillance in the case of these bills here. Yeah, C8, C22, C12, and C36. And what you end up seeing with these separate bills, it's really funny how it comes together, is because they often start, for instance, the border bill and the data bill, collection bill, were one and the same. They couldn't get that passed. There was too much pushback. And so then they just separate it and then put them into 2 different bills and push them forward.
You often see bills with unrelated items in them and you think, okay, they're packaging this up. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I can understand the argument that's put forward on certain ones, like say, for instance, the child exploitation stuff. And we want to be able to get more data and look into these sorts of things. But I guess where my head goes with that is when I see things like, for instance, I believe it was a year or 2 ago, there was a sting operation called Project Juno that took place here in Ontario. Yeah. And they found within 100 days, I believe it was, over 1,100 different people trying to solicit lewd acts from minors across Ontario. And none of that really led to any major convictions or anything. So they essentially got the data, they found out who was doing it, but they never pressed charges going forward or actually did anything meaningful with it. And so my mind there
I'm going to assume that's because the laws did not allow for them to use that data to pursue charges.
For sure, but even too, if you look at sting operations, for instance, once they try to actually lure the person into that, there was no investigation. They just essentially went, yeah, we had these people responding to an online ad by a child, and that's what we found. But you could have used that information in a certain way if you wanted to. But that's where my mind goes, is seeing things, whether it's those kind of crimes or whether it's other crimes in general. It seems to me like the law isn't being applied to get the, for instance, the bail stuff or other easy on crime, depending on, say, identity politics and that kind of stuff, where we're letting people out on easier sentences. I wouldn't see why you would have to expand law in order to deal with problems when you've already got laws to deal with those problems and you're not applying them properly.
Oh, interesting.
So that's kind of where my head goes with it.
To create a new law seems almost contrived when you've already got the means to do it. You're just not executing it in that way.
Right. And then so that would lead me to think maybe there is something other than the stated purpose behind it.
I get you. Yeah.
And I mean, at this point, if we put all of the different bills together, it paints a pretty clear picture as to, this centralization of surveillance in data. So we've got the Cybersecurity Act, Lawful Access Act, the Immigration Borders Act, and the Privacy Consumer Data Act. But what these allow them to do is they allow the corporations and the companies to collect more data on you. It also mandates that they have to keep metadata for a year, who you've been calling, your texts, all of this kind of stuff. They're pushing to get behind the encryption on those messages as well. And then they're also pulling back the burden of proof that they would have to have in order to get somebody's data, and the watchdog that is in charge of making sure no procedures are overstepped is also, their leash is getting shortened. So just all of these things at once seem to me to be pointing to the direction of just essentially expanding surveillance capabilities.
Once again, a surveillance bill would have been too obvious.
Right.
That I do understand. I can see the sensibility in looking at this and saying, okay, if we go through it bill by bill, I mean, which of the bills, you have to help me with, I forget my C's, the Cybersecurity Act, I think is, that one is easy for us to, I think, get behind, because once again, stopping crime, stopping, predators, protecting our most vulnerable, I think, was the intent behind that. But at the same time, it does allow access, unprecedented access in Canada, to data that, once again, is unprecedented, because historically, all the data that anybody had on us was already in the hands of the government. Anything else we had was our real privacy. So, and I said to you before the show, I don't even know if our data is really, and I even said to you, with no offense, Liam, but you and I, our data seems a little useless to most people, I think, by and large. And your response was, yeah, but it's the overall mass data and the pattern recognition that can be had, and I don't know that any of these laws that we're talking about really would prevent the government from being able to do that.
Right. And I think my take on it is that we're seeing the things that have already been happening being formalized through legislation. So, for instance, during the COVID stuff, it came out, there was a National Post article about this, and even an MP came forward as well about how the Public Health Agency of Canada was spying on the metadata and cell phone data of 88% of Canadians. It was like 31 million different Canadians at that point. And then so they're tracking, and yeah, it's not that I feel as an individual I'm getting spied on, but the mass collection of that data is then used in order to do what they would call nudging techniques, and then go, okay, well, if people are doing this, they're behaving in this general way, what do we need to do to nudge them to that general way?
How do we take their momentum for what they are already doing and make it our momentum?
Right. Right. And so I don't view it as much on a personal level as to what it allows them to do on a major scale, or even too, we've seen scandals in the past when it comes to these the online data stuff, where it was the whole Cambridge Analytica stuff back in the Trump days, right, where they were using metadata from social media sites in order to predict elections, or even that as well. You go, okay, 60% of the people are on the fence about this issue, therefore I need to tailor my messaging to this to nudge them on this issue towards this wave that's beneficial for me. So it's less about the individual spying, as more so as the large scale nudging that I see as an issue.
One of the times that I saw this happen was actually during the Trump election, the first time when polling came out that Hillary Clinton was way in the lead.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I think what had happened there was the polling companies got out there.